Donald Trump is apparently considering reopening the CIA's black sites that were the location of much of the torture that took place during the War on Terror under President Bush. Now, we knew that he had a very favorable opinion of torture, but the CIA black sites are so stereotypically, cinematically bad things that I did not think he would be willing to go this far, but we're going to show you what's in that draft executive order. It says that high-level Trump administration officials should conduct several reviews and make recommendations to Mr. Trump. One was a recommendation on this: whether to reinitiate a program of interrogation of high-value alien terrorists to be operated outside the United States by the CIA. And I mean, how could you even write that sentence? Like, okay, so you think that there's high-value aliens that should be interrogated, but to specifically say, but let's not do it in America. Let's definitely do it overseas where fewer people will be able to see it.
And less laws will apply. U.S. laws won't apply when we torture them, do cruel and unusual punishment, and violate the Constitution.
Which is interesting and fits in with this. So Mr. Trump's order says no detainee should be tortured or otherwise subjected to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment as prescribed by U.S. law, but it makes no mention of international law commitments binding the United States to adhere to humane standards. And first of all, we already know what he thinks qualifies as torture, and we'll get into that. But also, that means then that the U.S. law could just be changed, and then we could do whatever we want. Let's not worry about all those international laws that have kept the world in a relatively stable place for something like 7 decades.
I mean, you mentioned this is theater, right? And Trump often says, look, I'm putting on a show. Yeah. And so if this is a show for his base, well played, his vicious base, the half of his voters who are the deplorables, the only thing Hillary Clinton got right in the whole campaign, will love it. They're like, yes, we get to torture the brown people again. Yes, 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 right? And then they'll say, whoa, what do you mean? Don't call me vicious. How dare you?
I'm a Christian.
How could you call me deplorable? I just like torturing people.
Yeah.
And by the way, torture, as we've explained 1,000 times, based on evidence, it does get you something. It doesn't get you the truth. It gets you whatever that particular torturer wants to hear, right? And one of the things that Cheney accomplished with torture back in the day was people would falsely say that Iraq was involved with 9/11, which were all disproven later. Yeah. But at the time, he wanted to invade Iraq, and the torturer gets what he wants, but he doesn't get the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, but in terms of theater for the rest of the country, he's misjudging it. Yes, half of your voters are deplorable. That means 75% of the country isn't, including half of your voters. And a mom sitting in Kansas doesn't think like, yes, they reopened the dungeons. She's a little uncomfortable with it. And I think she's going to grow a lot more uncomfortable with it as time goes on.
This quote that we're going to read for you is exactly what those deplorables want to hear. Mr. Trump vowed during the campaign to bring back waterboarding and, quote, a hell of a lot worse, not only because, quote, torture works, but because even if it doesn't work, they deserve it anyway.
Wow.
And that, I mean, look, Bush defended torture a million times, but he always said it was to get the information. Even Cheney would probably do that. But the voter out there, the deplorable, doesn't actually care about that. He just wants them to feel pain. And Trump perfectly summarized that right there.
Now, so John read to you earlier that theoretically it says we won't do cruel and inhuman treatment.
Yeah.
But Trump has told you his interpretation of what's legal is something that is cruel and inhuman, waterboarding and a hell of a lot worse. And he doesn't care that it doesn't work. He just wants to do it for vengeance sake.
I know you might say, well, that was a long time ago. Maybe he's changed his view. Well, why don't we go to this next video and see if that's the case.
You told me during one of the debates that you would bring back waterboarding and a hell of a lot worse.
I would do what I would do. I want to keep our country safe. I want to keep our country safe.
What does that mean?
When they're shooting, when they're chopping off the heads of our people and other people, when they're chopping off the heads of people because they happen to be a Christian in the Middle East, when ISIS is doing things that nobody has ever heard of since medieval times, would I feel strongly about waterboarding? As far as I'm concerned, we have to fight fire with fire. I have spoken as recently as 24 hours ago with people at the highest level of intelligence, and I asked them the question, does it work? Does torture work? And the answer was yes, absolutely. I will rely on Pompeo and Mattis and my group. And if they don't want to do, that's fine. If they do want to do, then I will work toward that end. I want to do everything within the bounds of what you're allowed to do legally. But do I feel it works? Absolutely, I feel it works.
So really fast. I don't believe that they told him that, and we can't. That this is a terrible position to be in because it makes us seem partisan. We cannot trust. We already know that he's, in terms of the briefings that were given about the Russia stuff, he would come out and say that he'd been told one thing, and then it would be directly contradicted by people in the meeting the next day. He simply lies. Also, he didn't say they said enhanced interrogation works. He said they said torture works, and so he's for it. He can't even remember the term he believes he's allowed to use. He literally just said torture there is okay.
Torture, by the way, is illegal under American law, let alone international law. It's torture, for Christ's sake. We're having a conversation about this. Of course it's illegal. So, I mean, if you did it to dogs, you'd get a prison sentence. Ask Michael Vick, right?
Yeah.
If you did it to small animals, you'd get a prison. If you do it to humans, even if you think they're terrorists, by the way, a lot of these people are never even charged. And by the way, oops, it turns out in Guantanamo Bay, we had hundreds of people who we later decided were innocent, that they had been turned in for the $5,000 bounty and they hadn't done anything.
Yeah.
So, but they never got tried, but they got tortured anyway. Now he's saying, oh, yeah. By the way, Pompeo and Mattis, be careful the advice you give him.
Yeah.
Because he just said he's going to throw you under the bus. Later, he's going to say, well, I didn't.
They said it was allowable.
Pompeo and Mattis told me I should do it. It was their decision, not mine. I told you right on tape.
Yeah. And
okay?
also the sick ethics of, well, if they do something, then we get to fight fire with fire. If they're immoral, we get to be immoral. First of all, if they're chopping off the heads of Christians, they do chop off the heads of Christians, in some cases because they're Christians. They also chop off about 10 times as many heads of Muslims, specifically because they're Muslims, but not in the way that they want them to be. I love that you can't even acknowledge the fact that most of the victims by far are Muslims. But again, that if they do it, we get to do it. This is the Christian president. This is the people who, driven by this Bible, the inerring word of God, well, they were fucked up, so we get to be as fucked up as we want, which also then justifies what they're doing, because we're showing that it's apparently fine. If you think you need to do this to protect your country, we agree with you.
So finally, I think that's the thing to emphasize. He says we haven't seen anything like this since medieval times, and we're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it is so horrific that we haven't seen it since medieval, and that's why I would like to do it. I'm going to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
So he talked about decapitating people. So his fire with fire, are we going to start decapitating people? Are we going to do it indiscriminately based on race or religion like they do? I mean, we're fighting fire with fire, right?
He feels strongly. Got to protect the country.
So I don't know where his line is. And even if you're a conservative, I ask you, do you know where Trump's line is? I don't even know if he's got a line.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know what he's capable of. And that's a scary thing for your president. Help us with Operation Watchdog. Help us hire 4 new reporting teams. We could be the watchers on the wall. Make sure we keep Trump and the establishment in check. TYTnetwork.com/go.